In 2008, California made a promise that felt like science fiction, a transportation revolution. Imagine a high-speed, 200-mile-per-hour bullet train, the kind you see crushing it in Japan and France, that would cover the 400 miles between San Francisco and LA in under 3 hours. It wasn't just connecting two cities, it was connecting two megacities. It was supposed to kill traffic, replace airports, and set a new gold standard for American infrastructure. The price tag? A manageable $33 billion. The completion date? 2020. This wasn't just a big bet. This was the opening chapter to what has become the biggest, most expensive, and most colossal failure in modern American history. I'm Big Guy Ian, and this is the story of the $100 billion ghost train. The vision was incredible, right? You wake up in San Francisco, cruise down to LA for a business meeting, and you're back home for dinner, never once dealing with the TSA or the 5 FWA parking lot. It should have changed everything. But the minute the first ceremonial shovel hit the dirt, the dream shattered. The numbers started to bloat, and the scope started to shrink. The original goal? 800 miles of track. Today, over a decade later, here is what we have to show for it. A tiny, isolated fraction. Less than 100 miles of active construction, stuck in the Central Valley, miles away from either LA or SF. Not a single passenger train is running. The problem wasn't a lack of money or engineering know-how. The problem was simple. The project was simply too big, too complex, and, let's be honest, too American to succeed. So, how does a $33 billion promise morph into a $100 billion nightmare? The cost explosion happened in two brutal ways. Factor 1, the land battle. To build a straight, 200 miles per hour line, you can't snake around. You have to plow right through. That means buying land. Thousands of properties were needed. And what happens when the massive, bureaucratic state of California tries to take your property? You fight. And Americans love to fight. The state's original budget for property acquisition was grossly, almost criminally underestimated. What they budgeted for millions turned into billions in legal fees, eminent domain battles, and astronomical payouts. They weren't just buying empty farmland. They were buying everything from massive industrial sites to established local businesses, each one demanding a bespoke legal war. The rail authority was often forced to pay out 5, 10, even 15 times their original valuation. This single factor created a financial crater so deep, it made the rest of the failure inevitable. Factor 2, the bureaucratic blockade. The second factor, and maybe the most frustrating, was bureaucracy. California is a regulatory maze, and this project had to crawl through every single local, state, environmental, and political committee imaginable. Every single one of those touch points didn't just slow the process, it added insane amounts of money. For a construction project of this magnitude, every month of delay adds an estimated $20 million to the final bill. They had to redesign entire routes just to protect a single endangered flower. They had to negotiate for years with existing freight train companies who saw the bullet train as a threat to their turf. They had to fend off hundreds of lawsuits that had nothing to do with the train itself, but were weaponized by competing interest groups. The political will was there, but the ability to execute against this massive, complex, bureaucratic web was not. The machine kept building a bigger, more complicated machine to manage the project, and that is why it has gotten slower and infinitely more expensive. The lesson for us is simple. Sometimes the biggest, flashiest ideas can be sunk by the smallest, grittiest details. The complexity of a massive project is often its true and final downfall. But the big guy is just getting started. I want to know, what major billion-dollar project do you think is destined to fail next? Maybe something to do with Elon Musk? Something in space? Something in your own city? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're into the big stories of money, power, and massive failure, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss the next one.